Let's look at this problem. So this is a word problem. So in order to solve this word problem, the first step, which is probably the most important step, is to write down the mathematical equations that we can derive from the description of the problem. So here, let's try to read the problem. So two basketball teams, the Beavers and the Ducks, they played a game. And the two teams scored a total of 200 points, and the Beavers won by a margin of 14 points. Okay, so let's use X to represent the points that the Beavers has scored, and Y to represent the points that Ducks has scored. Okay, you can also use B or D to represent, so you don't have a hard time to remember which one is representing which team. But let's just say we use XY in this case. Okay. So we know that the two teams has scored a total of 200 points. So we know that the X plus Y should be equal to 200. And we also know that the Beavers won the game by 14 points. That means Beavers has 14 points more than the Ducks. So that's why X minus Y should be equal to 14. Okay. So now the question is asking how many points did the Beavers score? Basically, we want to solve the equation to find out the best value for X. Okay, so there are a few ways to solve these two equations. So one is for substitution. So you can first represent the X with Y, and then you replace the representation of X into the other equation, and then you solve that equation. Okay. But in this case, a easier way to solve is to use a elimination. Okay, so let's say this is equation 1 and this is equation 2. In order to solve for X, we just need to eliminate Y from these equations. Okay, so what we do here is to use equation 1 plus equation 2, and we will try to, okay, so X plus Y, this is my first equation, and plus X minus Y, this is my second equation. They should be equal to 200 plus 14. Okay, so this is my first step. Then the second step, we just need to work on this equation a little bit. So we know that the plus y and the minus y get canceled, and we have x plus x, which is 2x equals 214. Okay, so solving this equation, we just divide both sides by 2, and this will be divided by 2. So we know that x equals 107. Okay. If you want to calculate y, then you just put x back into one of the equations, for example, this one, and you will get y equals 107 minus 14, which will be 93. Okay, so that will be our solution for this problem. So basically, Beavers has scored 107 points. Okay, so that's the mathematical solution for this particular problem. So I also want you to understand the intuition behind solving these equations. So why do we need to solve this equation, and we get the answers from this for this particular problem? Okay. So what we can do is we can try to graph both of these equations. Okay, so let's try to graph the first one. So equation 1, x plus y equals 200. So in order to graph this equation, we know that this is a linear equation, so we know that it's going to be a line on this two-dimension coordinates plane. Okay, so in order to graph a line, we only need 2 points. Okay, so let's just try to calculate for a few points here. So let's say if x equals 0, in order for the sum to be 200, then we got to be, y need to be 200. If x is 200, then in order for the sum of xy to be 200, then xy also need to be 100. And similarly, if x is 200 and y needs to be 0, right? So suppose this is our 200 here, and this is also our 200 here. And we can just simply graph, this is 200, this is 0, 200, right? And this is 200, 0, right? So, of course, we have a 100 and 100 here, about halfway. So we don't need to use this point because we just need 2 points to draw the line. So let's just try to draw the line. Not exactly 100% accurate, but this is like Assume this is a line, okay? So that is the first equation that we want to draw on this two-dimensional coordinates. Okay, so this is my equation 1, which is x plus y equals 200. What does this line mean is all the points, any points that is on this line, so pick any points. So the sum of x and y coordinates must be equal to 200. Okay, so that's the meaning of all the points on this particular line. Okay, and then we can follow the same strategy to draw a line for the second equation. So we also have x and we have y. We know that the second equation is x minus y equals 14. So when x equals 0, then y must be negative 14. Okay. And if we want y to be 0, then x must be 14. Okay, so you can plug in these two set of numbers into the equation and try to evaluate that. All right, so after we have this pair of numbers, we can just also try to figure out the numbers here on this coordinates. So here, x equals 0, which is on the y coordinates, and the y equals, this is 0, and negative 14. And similarly, we will have a 14, 0 here on this x-axis, okay? And again, so we will use the same strategy to draw a line here. So this is our line for the second equation, okay? Again, so the meaning of the points on this line is that the difference between x and y is always going to be 14, okay? So any points here, x coordinates and y coordinates, x minus y, is going to be 14, okay? So now we can see that all the points here are the difference x and y is 14. All the points here, the sum of x, y is 200. So that's why the intersection here, this particular points, will satisfy both equations, right? So it will satisfy the requirement for this one, which means x plus y equals 200. It will also satisfy the requirements for this one, which means x minus y equals 14. So that's why these particular points is our solution. Okay, so this is what we are looking for, which turns out to be 107 and 93. Okay, of course, you cannot get the number by just looking at this graph, but at least you get the intuition of how these points can be found by solving these two equations. Okay, so basically, I think we have covered this, explained this word problem, and I want you to be able to at least do these two things. One is derive the equations based on your understanding of the problem. And the second thing is understand the intuition of the solutions of these two equations. Okay, so that's all I want to share with you for this problem. Thank you for watching.